Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The story begins with a chaotic scene. Everything is burning down, flames reaching sky high, and walking barefoot through the flames is Lyanna. She calls Pervasia as the only one of her remaining descendants. She requests her to take her body as simply dry kindling and devour everything, as desired by this land's last Mirud, until everything becomes ash. Lyanna thinks throughout her life she has lived only as a sword for her family, seeking the revenge her father desired. She came to the realization that her family had been brutally murdered. The entire time she has been fighting without turning around, but everything she has known was a lie. She has been fighting without looking back. She had lied about everything, including her family, her beliefs, and the path that she had chosen to take, in spite of the fact that she genuinely loved and cared for them. The realization that she has embarrassed herself is the single most miserable thing that can happen to a person. Everything has been consumed by fire and reduced to ashes. The only thing that remains to haunt her is a glimmer of resentment. When did everything go wrong? What action should she take at this moment? As Lyanna was wandering, a strange existence materialized in front of her and inquired as to whether or not she believed it to be unfair and whether or not she desired to alter the course of her circumstances. She could say that she wanted to try again if that is the case. As a form of atonement, Lyanna suddenly felt her heart begin to burn. There is a burning desire to live within it. After much deliberation, Lyanna made the decision that she would seize this opportunity. She is going to be brought back to life and change this sad destiny. Lyanna vows that she will continue to do it over and over again. As the final pyromancer in the Xantar Kingdom, she is known as Lyanna la Mirud, and she is a servant of the Lord of Fire. According to Lyanna, she will never let go of this resentment no matter how long Mirud's flame continues to burn. There is no doubt that she will resurrect, and those who treated her like a puppet will never be spared from the consequences of their actions. Lyanna is reborn as a young girl with red hair than she was before. She was reborn, whether it was because of fate or because she wanted to change something. It is hard to believe that she would have made it to the Halia's den of all places, but that is exactly what happened. The child who is the most responsible is the second child, while the child who causes the most trouble is the third child. The unfortunate first son is a representation of his father in every minute detail. As far as Lyanna is concerned, the interior of this house appears to be exactly the same as it was in her previous life. She considered Alraid Halias to be her sworn enemy, and this is the Halias family, which revolves around him as the family center. On the other hand, Lyanna believes that they were being tricked into fighting, but despite this, they still had a poor relationship with one another. The second child of the Halias family, she was brought back to life thanks to Pervasia's protection, and as a result, she found herself in this peculiar family. And to her, who nearly experienced the same fate once more after being brought back to life. In her previous life, she had a difficult time getting along with her family, but now she is starting a new life with them. Lyanna gets a flashback from her past life. That day, she believed, must be the last day of her life. When we consider her life, we see that she was nothing more than a weapon for her family. How could there possibly be any regrets? The arduous training that she had undergone in order to kill the man who was standing in front of her. In front of her is a man with silver hair who is known as Alraid. He is a prominent figure on the Viant continent, and he has proclaimed himself to be the king. As the Duke of Alraid Halias, he is. After that, Alraid tells Lyanna that he will ask her one final question, and that question is whether or not she is aware of her parents, to which Lyanna responds that she is unable to provide any information to him. When he is going to kill her, he needs to do it as quickly as possible. Lyanna has made every effort to rebel against the ruthless ruler of the Halias lineage, but she has not even a single blink of an eye. This is to be expected from the harsh ruler. They have a sword master who is known as the Ghost of Halias, as well as a genius who became a scholar of the Royal Academy at an unbelievable young age. Halias is protected by a shield that employs cunning tactics and strategies. In addition, there is Alraid, who is the head of the family of Duke Halias and the father of 3 sons. The fact that she survived to carry out her father's ambitions and exact revenge on Halias is a fortunate circumstance. In spite of the fact that she is a native of the Murdy family, she was ultimately unsuccessful. Lyanna has been restrained by Alraid to a chair. Lyanna is under the impression that her father must also be feeling dissatisfied. It was all of a sudden that her father was thrown to the ground, with his hands and feet bound together. Lyanna inquires about her father's well-being when she sees him. She is of the opinion that it appears that he does not have any injuries. However, the changes that have occurred to his body are cause for concern. The Murdy family is represented by the fiery red hair that is a symbol of strength. During the course of his fight against Halias, Lyanna's father lost his abilities. It would be excruciating to lose his precious power in such a manner. Lyanna confronts Alraid with the question of what he has done to her father, but Alraid slaps her face and responds by saying that he is babbling nonsense, which is appropriate for a failed project, while still hypocritically clinging to the noble lineage of Murdy. Lyanna's father chuckles and expresses his delight at the situation. To his right, he is holding a locket. After recognizing it, Lyanna is under the impression that it is a pendant that features a portrait of Lyanna in question. For an extended period of time, her father has held it in the highest regard, as if it were a priceless treasure. While Lyanna is thinking about their magnificent castle, she also remembers her younger self with a woman with red hair. The fact that her mother does not have red hair, however, indicates that it is not her mother. Lyanna is perplexed as to why she had the presumption that she was her mother. Her mind wanders to the deplorable state of affairs that exists outside of the castle. Lyanna is experiencing a fear that her head is going to explode as everything around her is engulfed in flames. It was her father who rescued her from this calamity. However, the reality is that, in addition to kidnapping her, someone has set fire to the castle. They took her to the mountain and left her there. Apparently, she is the young Murdy of his line, according to the man. This is being conveyed to a man who appears to be mysterious and is wearing a hood. He is referring to himself as Lord Drehan. Lyanna recalls that Drehan is the ruler of the southeast region of the continent, and she also recalls that Behel is not capable of handling the situation on his own when he says that Lady Jessie will soon know the truth. It is now clear to Lyanna that everything began with them. Upon opening her eyes, sparks begin to illuminate the world around her. Whenever she opens and closes her eyes, she keeps seeing flames in her vision. Not a single thing in Lyanna's life could be considered genuine love. While being restrained on a chair in front of Alraid, Lyanna lets out a hysterical laugh. She asks Alraid to provide an answer regarding the location of her actual family members. When will the other Murdys be arriving? Alraid informs her that all of them have met their end. Drehan, who had been acting as if he were her father the entire time, laughs and mentions that Alraid has killed all of them. He also claims that Alraid is her adversary. Throughout his entire life, he has been saying it. On the other hand, Lyanna begins to cry and reveals that the day she was given her first mission was the day she turned 15 years old. After what seemed like an eternity, she finally boarded a ship bound for the mainland. There is no stopping Lyanna's tears. It is as if the blanks in her memory are being brought back to her. Following that, Drehan's hair begins to turn red in her recollection. Lyanna is informed by Drehan that their family was widely regarded as the most prestigious noble family on the continent. What caused them to be transported to this castle in the middle of nowhere? He explains to her that everything was due to the crafty plan that Alraid had designed. The large and prosperous castle that they owned was completely destroyed by fire. Her father has always told her that the only reason she seeks revenge is to exact revenge. On the other hand, Lyanna is under the impression that she has experienced a tragic end while being held in the underground prison on the miserable island of Jitak. She was only comforted by a maid named Behel, who was kind to her whenever she needed it. A locket pendant that belonged to her father was displayed to Lyanna. Lyanna was left with nothing but the will of events after she succeeded in erasing fear behind Behel. All of the remaining emotions are securely contained within a compact metal box. In light of the training that she had completed, the mission was not particularly difficult. It was necessary for her to destroy a small castle in the countryside. Alraid claims that the Chatara castle was the location. Lyanna claims that she had the urge to carry out a heinous act or crime. I was told by Behel, her nanny, that there was no one present in that castle. To say that they all perished as a result of an epidemic was a lie. It has been stated by Lyanna that she is a terrible sinner. Due to the fact that she was deeply ensnared by the rage of vengeance, she spent her entire life surrounded by hatred. She became even more enraged as a result of them all. Alraid was asked to burn her as a punishment for her sins. She claims that she is the only descendant of Murdy, and she is requesting that he burn and consume all of them in a generous manner. Where did everything go wrong? Lyanna wonders to herself. How were Drehan and Behel able to succeed in setting fire to the Murdy castle, which was a place where fire magic could not be implemented? Lyanna is pondering whether the fire mage was the ones responsible for reawakening her flame, or whether it was actually Halias, the royal palace. She is perplexed as to what error she made in her life that led to this predicament. Currently, she is filled with regret over everything. She has a deep desire to find out the truth and then simply pass away. it would have been possible for her to perform better. Having to be so dishonest was not necessary for her. She had the opportunity to endure and safeguard both her family and the entire world. A voice suddenly asks her if she feels that she has been treated unfairly and if she would like to give it another shot. Liana is under the impression that this voice belongs to Pravasia, and she inquires as to whether or not she can live once more. Liana is of the opinion that it is extremely unfair. She had just turned 3 years old. She is resolute in her determination to resurrect her life and refusing to give up. Until the very end, she will not give in to defeat. She is the only fire mage that is still active in the service of the god of fire, which she provides to the kingdom of Xantar. Pravasia has stated that she will, but in exchange, she can only make one request. Those individuals who have manipulated and deceived her must never be forgiven of their actions. In an instant, Liana discovers that she is lying on a plush bed and she has transformed into a young girl of 3 years of age. Liana was not expecting this. She thought trying again meant coming back to life, but she did not expect to go back to being a baby. With the fact that she still possessed the pendant that her father had presented to her, it is clear that she is still Liana and that she is still Murdy. All of a sudden, she hears the scream of someone. After giving it some thought, she is aware that she smells something that is burning. At first, she believed that was simply the smell that she had experienced when she had met Pravasia earlier, but this is not the case. The situation appears to be deteriorating. Liana is unsure whether or not she should run, but she thinks it would be best to first assess the situation. It is difficult for her to even get out of bed by herself. Being in the body of a baby is such a source of discomfort for her. With ease, she used to scale the walls of the castle, but now she is so weak that she can't even get out of bed. So in the end, she was successful. Before she can do anything, a man enters her room and tells her that she must be Liana because she has red hair and red eyes. She hopes that she is old enough to walk, but before she can do anything, something happens. He was her martial arts instructor in a previous life, and his name is Edipa Tadel. On that day, Liana comes to the realization that he was the one who kidnapped her. Concerned, Liana believes that if she is apprehended and comes into contact with Behel, everything will go back to how it was before. She makes an attempt to assault Edipa, but how precisely is it that a child of 3 years old is supposed to fight a grown man? It turns out that Edipa was successful in his mission, and he is able to remove Liana from the castle. As a result of Liana's body shaking and the fact that she believes her throat is hurting, she is unable to sound out. There is no one coming to save her despite the fact that she has been screaming so loudly. Since Liana is under the impression that she will be recognized by someone, she must conserve her strength until she encounters someone. Then Liana recalls that if they continue on for a little while longer, they will eventually come to the dock. Edipa is constantly being cursed by Liana, who says, "Edipa, you rotten jerk," in a voice that could be considered childish. Because of this, he becomes interested, and he responds by saying that if he had just heard his name, but that is not possible. Individuals should not be aware of that particular name. Inquiring about the origin of that name, he asks Liana. Liana has just recalled that there is absolutely no way that she ought to be aware of his name at this moment. When she is tied up like this, she feels like throwing out even more than she already does. Exasperated, the doctor asks Liana why she has suddenly become quiet and why she is so pale. He is also baffled by her appearance. While Edipa is in a state of panic, he inquires of Liana whether she is hurt in any way because he needs to bring her back to him in one piece. At last, Liana throws up while she is attempting to convey that she should stop shaking. Liana recalls that in a previous life, she had drank this water in a hurry and suffered as a result. Edipa offers her some water, and she remembers that event. This time, she will only slightly moisten her throat, but not much more. As far as Edipa is concerned, he didn't even tell her to drink a lot of water. It is almost as if she is living a second life. Although it is true that it is her second life, Liana believes that he has it right. Although it is true that it is her second life, this does not mean that there is nothing to fear. Liana asks the kidnapper, using her baby voice, if he has suffered any harm to her mother today. The person who kidnapped her claims that she has been giving him the creeps for some time, but Liana continues to ask the same question. After stating that he does not know, the physician then responds by asking, isn't their family supposed to be so wonderful? Because the people who are descended from Pravasia are considered to be of such high quality, it is believed that they will perish in their own fire. Liana becomes enraged and makes an attempt to strike Edipa after she learns that even she perished in her own fire in a previous life. so he is not allowed to speak in such a manner. The break time has come to an end. In spite of the fact that she is starving, she must continue to be patient with him because he is unable to provide her with food at this time because she has just thrown up. Lyanna is informed by him that she must remain seated until they are able to meet the lady. Now is not a long way off. During this time, Lyanna is considering somebody other than the lady. In the event that she comes into contact with the Sorcerer of Forgetfulness, she will lose her memory and revert back to being a puppet. She will not be able to break free of her spell in any way. Lyanna is convinced that there is no way that she is squandering the second chance at life in such a disgraceful manner. Lyanna believes that they are on the verge of arriving at the dock. Due to the fact that they are currently sitting there, it is impossible for them to meet up with the lady before that and move together. She believes that she ensured Pravasia that she would lead a happy life. Contrary to what happened in her previous life, he will not simply destroy everything. She is pleading with anyone who happens to be nearby to come by, and fortunately, there is someone in the vicinity. She is yelling and yelling for assistance. She makes an attempt to assert that this individual has abducted Amerdi. On the other hand, Adipa asks her if she wishes to pass away and then places her on the ground. Until she sees a man with silver hair, Lyanna makes an attempt to flee and keeps asking for assistance right up until that point. Although he is aware that Lyanna is Amerdi, he is able to identify her based on the color of her eyes and hair. He claims that his name is Theodor Helias, this young man with silver hair. In the Helias family, he is the second son of the family. He draws his sword and declares that a descendant of Pravasia is the treasure that the kingdom would like to possess. In light of his young age, Lyanna finds it hard to believe that he is both a Helias and a sword master. It is possible that Adipa, who is currently holding a child, is in a position of disadvantage in this scenario. When Lyanna considers this circumstance, she does not care who emerges victorious. In the event that she is apprehended by the Helias, she is close to being dead. Lyanna believes that the person who kidnapped her must release her in order for her to be able to fight them off. By no means is she going to pass up this opportunity. Adipa is attacked by Theodor with his sword, but he does not attempt to avoid the attack. When Lyanna asks him if he is trying to protect her, he responds by saying that he needs her to be alive so that he can use her in the future. The fact that she has had enough and needs to get out of this place compels her to leap out of Adipa's grasp and make an attempt to flee. On the other hand, Theodor manages to catch her and reassures her that she is fine. She must have had a very difficult time getting here. If Lyanna is interested in accompanying him in the carriage, he inquires about it. He assures me that it will not be frightening. Nevertheless, Lyanna is considering the fact that it would be exhausting for her to be caught by Helias in this location. She is unable to overcome it mentally, and she holds this useless body responsible for everything that has happened. Lyanna receives a ride on the back of a boy named Piggy. Nevertheless, Lyanna is experiencing a feeling of nausea and vomiting because she is under the impression that the night sky and the ground are moving. Lyanna is able to determine whether they are on a ship or in the ocean. She is of the opinion that there is no way that Theodor could have lost. Even as a young child, she begins to cry whenever she is confronted with the prospect of returning to Lozan Island. Immediately after putting her down, the young man who was carrying her claims that he was unaware that she was awake and places her back down. In addition to Theodor, there are multiple other passengers on board the ship. Lyanna is asked by Theodor if she misses her mother. He also mentions that her throat must be dry and that she is probably hungry. He then inquires as to whether or not she would like some water. With this information in hand, Lyanna is at ease knowing that they will not be going to the island if Theodor is present. The question is, then, why are they out at sea? It would have been possible for them to arrive at Murdy if they had simply gone back a little bit from there. Given that her life was saved, now is not the time to question anything that has happened. Theodor is questioned by her about their destination. She is informed by Theodor that they are going to the main base of the Helias in order to conduct some very important business. He apologizes and says that she most likely wants to go home, but he did not feel comfortable leaving her with his subordinates because there are not many powerful swordsmen on the continent who are able to use Aura. He asks Lyanna if the person who kidnapped her from the castle abducted her. He believes that even if he were a sword master, he would not have been able to accomplish this on his own. Anyway, Lyanna is no longer in danger. It is revealed to her by Theodor that he is the son of Helias, who hails from the north, and that Helias is a friend of Murdy. In the name of Helias, he claims that he had made a promise to bring her back to her house. It is not a secret to Lyanna that they are not friends. When it comes to territorial power, they are always on guard, but even if it is a lie, there is no way to escape from this ship, so she has no choice but to play along with them. Therefore, she accepts his promise. A lady greets Theodore and Liana as they arrive at the palace the following morning. Theodore has brought Liana there. They are required to take this child to the main base, but none of them are able to provide proper care for a child. Theodore explains to her. He also tells her that they have to take this child. She inquires about Liana's name and asks her if she must have been going through a difficult time. Liana reveals her name to the lady, and she finds this to be an extremely awkward situation. However, out of all the places they could have brought her, they brought her here. He was happy to rest and clean up. The woman greets her and introduces herself as the Lady of Chitara Castle, which is the very castle that Liana destroyed in her previous life. She says that it is a pleasure to meet her. In addition to mentioning that she still has some dresses that her daughter used to wear when she was younger, the lady is very excited and suggests that they should get Liana cleaned up while the meal is being prepared. Her request to Liana is that she take a seat and wait in a comfortable manner until everything is ready. At the festival, the lady claims that she caught a glimpse of the Duke from a distance. Both the Duke and the Duchess appeared to be the epitome of elegance and good taste. She requests that Liana convey her respect to them when she returns home, and that she tells them that she praised for the Duke on a regular basis. When Liana thinks about what she did to this person in a previous life, she is filled with regret and regret. After a brief period of time, the lady has finished cleaning Liana and dressing her in some luxurious and elegant garments. The woman claims that despite the fact that it is old because her daughter used to wear it a very long time ago, it is made of cloak, which means that it ought to be warm. Liana expresses her gratitude to the lady and expresses her deep regret for the fact that she destroyed her castle in her previous life out of some irrational anger. On the other hand, the lady asserts that there is no requirement to apologize and that it is a privilege to know that she has said such things. In her current state of mind, Liana believes that she is constantly assuring herself that this cozy and compact castle will never again be destroyed by fire. Since Theodore, who is stationed at the Helia's base, reports that the weather was rough, it must have been difficult to arrive here. He is grateful that Liana was able to persevere through this. Liana, on the other hand, was under the impression that she was supposed to be of Murdy bloodline. Why does she seem to be the only one who is experiencing such a chill? If she had entered the castle even a little bit later, she would have been crushed to death by the freezing temperatures. When Theodore sees his younger brother, Cheyenne, still awake, he inquires as to the reason for his presence. Liana is unable to accept the fact that he is actually Cheyenne Halias. This youngster tops the list of the continent's most intelligent and youngest students. When they are young, even brilliant people are just cute little boys like everyone else. It is during this conversation that he informs his father that the second brother has brought another piece of trash. However, Theodore tells him that it is impolite to speak in such a manner to a lady who comes from a noble family, regardless of how young she is, and she requests that he apologize right away. Shine is taken aback by the fact that it was not a doll, and he immediately rushes straight to his father to inform him that his second brother has brought something back to life. Theodore expresses his regret and explains that he is simply taken aback, but that he is not a disobedient child. However, Liana believes that she has come to the conclusion that he is also struggling with some issues when she looks at him. What kinds of activities has he been up to in his normal routine? After asking her what her name is, Theodore explains that he is quiet because she is so good at communicating. The fact that he brought someone home without even knowing her name is something that Liana finds amusing. Despite this, she makes an attempt to reveal her name and claims that it is Liana. The temperature of her lips is so low that she is unable to even successfully pronounce her own name. Liana was perplexed as to why he had to be the ghost when he first appeared into her life. But at this point, the more she looks at him, the more he appears to be nothing more than a sweet and innocent young man. The fact that he turned out to be a ghost is a mystery to her. In any case, Theodore finally gets the pronunciation of Liana's name right, and he remarks that it is a pleasure to meet her. He then introduces himself as Theodore Halias, the second son of Grand Duke Aurora Halias. Liana is under the impression that the second son of Halias has brought her back from the brink of death. Despite the fact that she does not like it, it is preferable to meeting Behel, which would cause her to lose her memory and repeat the events of the past. For some reason, the Halias castle offers a better chance of survival than any other location. There have been countless instances in the past in which she has put her life in danger by enduring rigorous training and missions. Which challenges would she not be able to face at this point? Without a doubt, she will make it through this ordeal. However, Theodore gives her a hug and tells her that they must first visit his father, which means that she must remain patient for a little while longer. The thought of Liana having to interact with the head of the family is terrifying to her. In any case, Theodore has stated that after he has met his father, the two of them will drink some soup while sitting by the fireplace. When he sees her, everyone will be amused, and he will pat her on the head of the woman. This is something that Liana considers to be extremely embarrassing for her, but she has no other option. Theodore leads her into the room that his father occupies. In the event that this is a joke, Aurora believes that he is protecting a noble child who is pretending to be a Murdy. The only thing that could save Liana is if he does not throw her out of the window. Aurora points out to Theodore that rescuing an injured animal by the side of the road is not the same as bringing a child from the Murdy clan, and he requests that Theodore send her back. That the sun has already set, and that it is snowing outside is something that Theodore is attempting to explain. There is going to be a storm during the night. It is in the name of Helios that he imparts to his father the assurance that he has made a commitment to safeguard the child. Liana, on the other hand, is experiencing apprehension simply by looking at Aurora. Liana is asked by him if she is able to speak and relay the events that have transpired at Murdy. In order for her to remain, she is required to respond to him. He claims that he was informed that Liana was saved from being kidnapped by an unknown individual and inquires as to whether or not that individual had infiltrated Murdy Castle. Theodore makes an effort to put this into words that Liana can understand. He allegedly entered the room through the window in the middle of the night, and there was a great deal of smoke coming from the castle, according to Liana. In an effort to clarify, she states that the castle was engulfed in flames. This information comes as a surprise to Theodore. According to Aurora, it is not possible for a fire to start in the Murdy Palace, which is believed to be the dwelling place of the descendants of the fire god. Liana believes that this response was somewhat forecasted and anticipated. Taking into consideration the viewpoint of Aurora, it is likely that he believes that a child of her age would not comprehend the Murdy flames. However, due to her limited vocabulary, she is unable to even articulate what she needs to say, let alone embellish the story. When that occurs, she is left with no other option but to show them. She moves closer to the fireplace and makes an attempt to grab a piece of wood that is burning. However, Theodore interrupts her and explains that he comprehends what she is attempting to convey. Despite the fact that Liana claims to be familiar with the Murdy flames, there was still a fire at their private residence. According to Liana, it is true, and she is curious about the reason why both of her parents have disappeared. In order to discuss it, Aurora is willing to sit down. Because Liana believes that it is a positive sign that they are paying attention, she proceeds to tell them the entire story. Every single word that she is saying is being misunderstood by these guys. Even Liana is unable to comprehend what she is saying to herself. In that moment, however, Cheyenne is the one who comes to her aid and saves her from the situation. Liana is attempting to convey to his brother and father that there was a fire at the castle, and that her mother was in the room next to the one where the fire was occurring. The way Liana sees it, he is a genuine savior. Cheyenne is asked by Aurora if he is interested in learning whether or not her mother was injured. His father is informed by him that Liana has expressed her desire to know whether or not her mother was injured in the fire. As a result of the power that Murdy flames possess, Aurora asserts that they pose a threat. Because of this, only sorcerers from the Murdy race are able to transfer the flames, and the hearth has been sealed to ensure its safety. Liana believes that this is the very first time that she has ever heard any of that. On the other hand, if there was a fire in that location, it indicates that there was an issue with the seal. If this were to occur, it would be a catastrophe for the entire kingdom, and Helios would also be affected financially. Therefore, for the time being, they are required to wait for the royal paperwork. Aurora inquires of Theodore whether or not he did not encounter the crown prince while he was on his way here. Theodore claims that he witnessed him arrive at the dock just as the boat was leaving, but he only made this observation from his side. When Aurora was supposed to go to the palace, he inquired as to why at all. It would have been unnecessary for him to make a stop at the dock. In his apology, Theodore explains that he was unaware that he was going to enter the territory of the Duhin clan in a covert manner, and that the kidnapper managed to flee while he was preoccupied with other things. According to Aurora, the lady will be relocated to Stonehenge as soon as the snow stops falling. However, according to Theodore, they will be informed of the news in a short while, so this is not necessary. After becoming enraged, Aurora asks, why does he constantly disobey the person who is in charge of the family? This is Theodore's apology. By bringing the lady to Helios without first obtaining his permission, Alraid claims that he should not have done so. In case of an emergency, he will move her ahead of schedule so that she can be brought back to Murdy as quickly as possible. When it comes to the promise that he made in the name of Halias, however, he must make sure that he keeps it. Lyanna expresses her gratitude for the fact that she is still alive and can maintain her current location until the snowstorm passes. In addition to reminding his brother that their brother Caliph will be returning the following day, Cheyenne inquires about the location from which he obtained this girl. Theodore is questioned about whether or not he has forgotten what Caliph said, which was that he would be in trouble if he brought another living thing into the house. As soon as Caliph arrived back at the palace, his subordinate broke the news to him that the Murdy princess was already present at the palace. Caliph requests that his servant break the news to Alraid that he needs to see him as soon as possible. The maids at Halia's palace are totally obsessed with Lyanna and see that the children of Murdy families can control fire at 7. They are curious about whether or not Lyanna will develop into someone as remarkable as she already is. Upon meeting Lyanna, they introduce themselves and inform her that they are the individuals who will be responsible for her care. Susie and Beth are their names. Additionally, Leon introduces herself to the group. They are arguing about who will be responsible for Lyanna's hair and who will assist her in washing her hair. In the midst of their conversation, Leon interrupts them and informs them that there is something more pressing. She needs to use the restroom. Later that evening, the maid places Lyanna in the chair that is reserved specifically for her at the dining table. A glass of milk is presented to Lyanna by Susie, who compliments her on how well she is doing. She explains to Lyanna that she must be hungry in order for her to be able to consume as much food as she desires and tell them whatever it is that she desires to consume. On the other hand, Lyanna is uncertain as to whether or not she is able to consume food at this moment, mainly due to the fact that she is obliged to utter that word with her own mouth in the end. In spite of this, it was essential. If she had ventured into that territory in this location, she would have been confronted with a snowstorm. Her pride, however, has been shattered. Lyanna is asked by Cheyenne if she has passed away this time, but Cheyenne is adamant that someone like her could not survive even a single day at Halia's castle. On the other hand, he might let her stay for a day and tell her that he can provide her with a nanny if she is insecure about sleeping by herself. He is watching that finger earlier. On the other hand, Lyanna believes that except for his father and older brother, there is nothing frightening in this castle. After Lyanna reveals her hand to Cheyenne, he is taken aback by the fact that there are no burns on her hand at all. He makes a phone call to his brother and requests that he witness the fact that there ought to have been flame burns. Additionally, Theodore makes the statement that it is incredible, but he also requests that Cheyenne be more polite. On the contrary, the princess is not a show. All of a sudden, Caliph appears and inquires of Theodore whether or not he is even aware that he is in a position to reprimand his younger brother. A fire broke out at the Murdy Palace 3 days ago, according to a message that Caliph says they received from the royal family. Theodore is informed of this information by Caliph. Theodore inquires as to whether or not that is accurate and severe enough for the royal family to send a message of urgency. On the other hand, Lyanna believes that it is a stroke of good fortune that she had to meet Caliph so soon after meeting the Duke. California, on the other hand, claims that their father is receiving specific information about the incident, and that in this particular scenario, the only princess of Murdy is currently located in Halias. He inquires about the appearance of it to Theodore. Theodore defends his actions by claiming that even if he had been present, he would have behaved in the same manner as he did, which was to say, like a young child writhing in the dirt and pleading for assistance. However, Caliph asserts that if he was going to act, he ought to have done so in an appropriate manner. However, the fact that the youngest sword master on the continent failed to capture even a single kidnapper is extremely embarrassing. In this castle, Theodore contemplates whether or not he will testify in such a manner. Theodore, on the other hand, recounts to his older brothers that the adversary employed Aurora. It is unfortunate that no one witnessed him being a master-level expert, but they say that he was. According to Lyanna, she was the one who saw it happen. Lyanna makes an attempt to convey to Caliph that she is aware of the kidnapper's name. However, he is unable to comprehend her baby language. On the other hand, Cheyenne arrives to lend a hand and provides an explanation of what Lyanna has just stated. Theodore expresses his surprise and inquires as to whether or not she is referring to the identity of the kidnapper. Lyanna makes an effort to pronounce the name of the kidnapper, but she is unable to do so correctly. It is frustrating for her. What is it about his name that causes her to be so upset? Lyanna claims that she is capable of writing it. The fact that she is able to write fascinates Cheyenne. Cheyenne reports that he did not begin learning to write until he was 4 years old, and he inquires of Liana whether or not she is capable of writing. On the other hand, Liana takes a piece of paper and makes an attempt to scribble something on it. But as one might expect from a body that is only 2 years old, she is unable to write correctly. Calife is of the opinion that she appears to know letters, and she inquires of Liana whether or not she has written the letter Psi. Yes, Liana responded. Despite the fact that Calife claims he has never heard of this family name, he will have to search among the Aurora users in order to find more information about it. He inquires of Liana how she was able to determine the identity of the kidnapper, given that there ought to be no connection between Murdy and Sickle. Liana believes that she is bereft of options and is obligated to disclose everything. According to Liana, he had the intention of taking her to Lausanne. Calife is under the impression that the kidnapper disclosed his name and destination to him while he was abducting the princess, which is a reasonable assumption to make. It's possible that he was able to relax his guard, or that he said it in order to reassure the child. According to Theodore, he would not have imagined that a sword master would be unable to locate a child who was only 3 years old. Regardless, it is necessary for them to share the tale with their father. Exactly at that moment, their father arrives and informs them that there is a message sent to the princess. It comes from the palace, and it is a message. They say that the legacy of the Murdy family has come to an end as a result of a significant fire. That evening, nobody was able to consume any food. Liana sobbed until she vomited all of the water out of her body. Despite the fact that they were hovering around her, the two brothers were uncomfortable, so the Duke dragged them away. Liana believed that she had once again fallen into the position of an orphan in this life. Once again, she was unable to find a place to go back to. These words from Aurora caused her pitiful body to become unconscious, and the Duke expressed his regret to her. He also told her that he was sorry. Even when she awoke the following morning, she continued to cry through the night. If the sky had fallen on her, the sunrise would have been the same as it always is. There was a sense of emptiness within it. Starting from the moment she opened her eyes, she had a hazy feeling about what was going to happen, based on the odor and the movement that she observed deep within the castle. She was aware that one could never get back what had been lost, even if new opportunities presented themselves. However, she was also aware that she could not continue to cry indefinitely. She took a look at the pendant that contained a portrait of herself. She told them that she was a Murdy, that she was still alive at the time, and that she was the only Murdy that was still alive. While she was crying, she needed to find Aurora so that she could hear what she had missed. Instead of taking her to the Murdy castle, she expressed her desire to request that he take her to the palace. As a result of the Murdy's hair, Precaution did not have to provide any evidence of her identity in order to receive protection from the palace until she reached the age of maturity. However, there was an eerie lack of noise. Following that, she became aware of the voices emanating from her room, which were Theodore and Calife's voices. Theodore approached the royal family with a sense of mistrust. Despite the fact that no one was paying attention, Calife questioned his father about the people who benefited from this destruction. He asked him to be careful. During the time that everyone was in a state of profound grief, the royal family was the only ones to acquire Murdy's fertile southern lands. In the event that the spirit stone belonging to the royal family was involved, Liana believed that they would be able to set Murdy ablaze. During the time that man from the past was in charge of that precious princess, it was not difficult to sneak a Pita into the princess's room. Nobody was able to locate her. In her mind, if the royal family was the one responsible for this, then everything made perfect sense. Theodore pleaded with his brother to refrain from making idle remarks. The kidnapper was aware that he was from the Helias, and as a result, he was also aware that Liana was present for the decree that he sent. Despite this, Calife suggested that the royal family might be putting them to the test. There is a possibility that they would give them half of the Murdy's territory if they offered the neck of the princess. Despite the fact that Liana was terrified and believed that it was unfair, this was the reality. She was unsure of what path she ought to take. She pondered whether or not she ought to flee. However, Theodore drew his sword on his older brother and stated that the princess was protected under Helias's name. He also stated that if he spoke in a cowardly manner, even if he was not his brother, he would not forgive him. Calife was told by the Duke that he should apologize if he believed that Helias was such a weak name that it would curry favor with the royal family by shedding the blood of a child. The Duke asked both of them to stop and then said to Calife that he should apologize. But Aurora asked Theodore if he would draw his sword even if his brother became the head of the organization, even if his opinions were different from his brother's. Theodore also expressed his regret. He had acted without thoughtfulness. Aurora, on the other hand, stated that there was no immediate need to disobey the royal family and that there was no reason to cause harm to the princess. It was only when she was a young child. It would be sufficient for them to claim that they unexpectedly came across her and brought her to the palace. When they were dealing with Murdy, they would be too busy. After that, the royal family would establish a proxy to govern Murdy until the princess reached the age of majority. There was no reason to exert any pressure against Helias. Aurora pleaded with everyone to comply, but Leon entered his room and pleaded with him not to abandon her. They were the ones who had demonstrated even a small portion of what it means to be human. Despite the fact that she was aware that it might put them in harm's way, she asked to be allowed to cling to them for just this one time. Even though she was still unable to do so, she desired to reignite her flame, and if she succeeded in doing so, she would be grateful to them for their generosity. In the event that she went to the palace, she would perish, and she desired to continue living this new life that she had just about finished acquiring. It turned out that she was unable to obtain an answer at that very moment. According to Theodore, she should go to her room and rest for a while. Helias could be labeled as a traitor if things did not go as planned, and Leon was aware that they would not be able to make a decision right away. Therefore, they must exercise caution. She knew, and the fact that she knew made the situation even more terrifying. After her tears had stopped, Leona pondered whether or not she would be able to think about tomorrow. When Leona was approached by a maid, she was informed that she had been with Lord Theodore and that she was curious about where Leona had gone. Dorian, Shine's nanny, was the name she gave when she introduced herself. She was a relatively elderly figure. Theodore inquired as to the reason for her visit to Leona. According to Dorian, she came because Shine had asked her to. Earlier in the evening, Shine had requested that she stay with Leona. Leona was informed by Dorian that the head chef had also prepared a delectable cheese souffle, and Dorian inquired as to whether or not they should go inside and eat something together. Leona believed that despite the fact that he was aware of Murdy, she could sense his smile and consideration being directed toward her in an effort to reassure her. It was a stroke of good luck that Theodore was present when she needed to relax and unwind. Theodore expressed his regret and stated that he had to leave immediately. He then requested that Leona get plenty of rest and that they would meet again at a later time. Since their chef's cheese souffle was well known across the continent, it ought to be able to improve her disposition. In spite of the fact that he was going against his family, even Theodore took care of her. Although she found that she was relying on these individuals more and more, she was curious about the means by which she could win the Duke's affection. While this was going on, the nanny put Leona to bed and then inquired about how she was able to get out of bed on her own. She claimed that Leona was a mother to Lady Cecilia, and that she had a striking resemblance to Lady Cecilia. Lady Cecilia Lamurdi was a woman who was on par with the flame itself, and she was the most skilled pyromancer on the continent. Even a person of this nature would not be able to avoid the terrible outcome. On the other hand, Leona believed that it was quite unusual for a Helias to have such a deep understanding of her mother. A story that Dorian promised to tell her was going to be very interesting. Leona contemplated the events that were taking place. As a matter of fact, she was not 3 years old, and she was not interested in stories from the past, but rather in stories from the future. On the other hand, the nanny started the story by saying, "Once upon a time, there was a beautiful and joyful princess whose hair was as fiery as flames." Considering that it was about her mother, Leona pondered whether or not she was making this up for her. In the next part of the story, Dorian continued by stating that the princess possessed a great Murdy power, which was fire. In front of her, everyone praised her and bowed down to her, but behind her back, they were speaking negatively about her. A knight with silver hair appeared one night, and the princess, who had been living a solitary life and hiding herself, was surprised to see him. The knight was the most skilled swordsman on the continent, and he had no fear of the princess being in his presence. He became the princess's friend and did not care about being impolite or jealous of her for any reason. Leona was curious about the nature of the story before her. On the other hand, Leona had already fallen asleep when Dorian reported that the princess had risen to great heights in the world and was no longer loneliness. Dorian pondered whether or not Leona had become disinterested in her story. However, Leona believed that the reason was simply that a happy ending seemed to be too far away. She wished that her mother was as content as the character in the story. In the morning of the following day, Leona continued to sleep until the afternoon. The maid informs her that it's time for her to leave, stating that she needs to hurry if she wants to attend the funeral and the investiture ceremony. She must carry on her family's legacy, and her parents' will. Liana has tears in her eyes as she thinks, no, she cannot carry it on. If she goes to the royal palace, either her mind or her body, one of them will die. She thinks that of course she does not plan to just go along quietly, but the royal palace is full of enemies. In that hell, she must fiercely survive alone. She tells Tira that they will kill her. If they send her there, then she will be lost. She asks her to not let them do it. The maid becomes worried and has tears in her eyes. She tells her she was not the murdered young lady she would. As Liana wonders, what would she do? Would she hit her? She knows that she has been kind to her, so it must hurt to hear this, but there is no other choice. She must quickly sever useless emotion. On the dining table, everyone is sitting quietly. She wonders if she should beg, thinking it is her last chance. Should she say that if they send her away, she will bring ruin to her Halius castle someday, or should she vow to give mercy if they protect her? They state that they have decided what to do with the princess from now on, causing her to close her eyes in fear. She gets scared thinking, what should she do? It is stated that from this moment she will stay at Halius castle, meaning that she won't have to go. She becomes shocked as she questions what. Theodora brightens up by this statement. The other one seems a bit taken aback, mentioning that it is dangerous despite the risk of interfering with the other family. Does he mean to say that he wants to raise that child in secret? The Duke asked to think about the alternative. Liana was shocked. Caliph then asked the dude what if the princess who appears follows the royal family? Mentioning that the royal family not only ruled the fertile territory of Murdi, he even holds the one and only pyromancer in his hand. Dran lost his only son last year and openly shows his animosity towards them. If, as he says, it is highly likely that the royal family destroyed Murdi, he guesses that they will try to make a bigger profit. Liana tells them to set a pillar of fire on the northern wall. She mentions that she can see everything. Even though she is 3 years old, she will manifest her brother at 5. She cannot miss this opportunity. She has to show them her abilities. She thinks that she won't let that Caliph mess everything up. Shun asks her that she said to set a pillar of fire on the northern wall, and she will manifest her power at Caliph mentions. What a joke, he questions. A pillar of fire on the northern wall. How does she know that she will manifest at 5? She tells them that her mother told her that, and she is confident. She knows that living her second life, she would know that much. Theodore also states that the princess lit a spark with her bare hands last time. She's only 3, but with that much power she will definitely become very strong. She tells them that she will get along without fighting. Shan mentions that she's a bit arrogant, but he does not dislike her as it is fascinating. The Duke tells her to make one more promise. He mentions that if she manifests as a pyromancer, never at any moment, she should use her fire against her Halius. She tells him yes as she ponders that she has no intention of doing what she did in her past life again. He then commands to take her and inform Garcia by tomorrow morning. He is questioned what does he mean as he responds that he should show the princess to Garcia and make a covenant. The princess thinks of the covenant. She thinks that Garcia must be Halius' sorcerer. If it is Halius' sorcerer, he's the guardian of the northern wall, guarding the northern defense wall itself from Halius. At the northern border of kingdom, she hopes that he is not using some trick like Babel. Theodora mentions understood. He states that she is still young. Liana notices the way Theodora reacts makes her worried. Instead of covenant is just pressing her hand on paper regardless of her age. She yawns as the Duke states that she seems sleepy again. She says something before she realizes she does not know herself what it means. The Duke tells Dorian to feed her lightly and let her sleep. They will be taking her out tomorrow, so let her rest well. The maid mentions all right. Liana thinks about it as the maid questions if they should go to her room now. She wonders where could they be going if there's nowhere for them to go. The materials hear that she must eat early tomorrow. A person stands far away outside mentioning that she will meet an important person tomorrow. The next morning, the Duke took her to the chapel. She wonders if he really has to carry her like this. She looks around and wonders why do all the buildings in Halius territory have to look so sharp and intimidating. She finds it really scary for no reason. And she also thinks why a chapel if he's going to confess to Prabash that he's adopting Murdi. She thinks it is probably Prabash himself who sent him to her. As he takes her, she finds it really dazzling. She looks around. He puts her down and tells her to go and see them. It is her mother and father. She steps towards them as she ponders that she did not even get a chance to be mourned and sent off properly. Not until now, after dying and losing everything once again. She trembles as she is unable to get up to them. He picks her up, helping her to look at them. She is aware that like in her previous life, the deaths of these two people were erased as if they never happened. She looks at their kind smiles, realizing what she had lost. She calls out to both of them. The Duke and her stayed there for a long time before heading back to the castle. In the carriage, both are sitting. He calls out to her and tells her that she will now return to Halias Castle, and from now on she will live under the name of Halias. He asked her if she understands. She ponders that, strangely enough, he looked very sad as he said that, even though his face remained expressionless as usual. As they arrived, Garcia appears in front of them, telling them that it has been a while. He calls out to her. He tells her that she should have waited in the dining hall. Liana thinks that she must be the sorcerer they talked about yesterday. Garcia states that when he said they were meeting someone special, she could not sit still even at this age. She wonders if this tiny old lady really is the guardian of the Northern Wall. He tells her now that she has met this esteemed child. What does she think? He questions if she has the fire of Murdy. She questions him if he's trying to test her. She tells him that this child was born as fire itself. He tells her good and states that he is going to make a covenant with this child, so she should place the seal of language. They step inside, mentioning that they are prepared. Theodore goes to her and tells her he does not know if she understands everything that has happened in the past few days. He questions if she really understands what this promise means. She tells him even if Theodore tries to kill her, she cannot use her fire. She states that she may not fully understand now. He gets down telling her, but she's still a child, and she has the right to be protected without such covenants. He tells her he would never point a sword at her. His promise would be valid as long as they live, and one day he will surely take her back to Murdy. She thinks that his words were hard for her to grasp, but there was a resonance that made her nod. She knows that she will never use her power against Halias. That covenant was made simply. She signs it as he tells her she is now his daughter. Perhaps she has become a slightly more cherished tool. The Duke tells Theodore to take her to the room. He takes her and Cheyenne to the room. She thinks that they're going in the opposite direction of the room she stayed in. She wonders where are they going. She wondered if it could be that she's headed back to the hellish training ground. They are welcomed by the maid. She called out to them as they tell her that she is going to be the Lady of Halias. They tell her that they have decorated her new room very beautifully and have been waiting for her. She steps in as she is shocked. She is told that this was the room used by the late Duchess. She is totally mesmerized by it. Cheyenne tells her that he used to come here all the time since it was his mom's room, and that if Liana tells him that he cannot come in because it is her room now, he will kill her. Liana questions if she can really use the Duchess room. Shin mentions that he does not remember her mother anyway. Rather than having this room always cold and empty, it would be nice if it becomes a warm room for her, stating she is part of their family now. The maid tells her to come in and see the room and have some dessert. They baked a very delicious cake to celebrate her. She begins to have tears in her eyes as she thinks only now could she cry her heart out. Calife mentions that they cannot hide, the only remaining Murdy descendant in Halias forever. Liana might decide to reclaim her territory when she becomes an adult. The Duke mentions that if she wants to reclaim her land when she goes up, then no one can stop her. Terrible proof she is a Murdy herself. Even his help would be meaningless then. Calife asks then why take the risk? The Duke responds until she grows up. Halias will owe a debt to her, to the child who will become the light of the kingdom. Theodore is hugging Liana. He asks her if she's feeling a bit calmer now. She tells him yes, but she still has tears in her eyes. She mentions that she won't cry anymore. He tells her that if she rubs her eyes like that, they will hurt later. She realizes that once she starts crying, she just cannot stop. He tells her that Dorian will bring a new wet towel soon. Even if it is damp, she should hang in there for a bit. He will definitely take her to Murdy on her 20th birthday. She questions if he promised that. He tells her yes. She is aware that 20 is an age that she never reached in her past life. She wonders if she will be able to go to Murdy. Will she be able to live until then? The Duke questions if she has calmed down a bit. The maid responds that yes. She finally stopped crying. She becomes stunned, wondering if he was listening. He tells her that he has something to tell her. He calls out to her and mentions that after the funeral for the Duke and Duchess of Murdy, Halias will hold a banquet to welcome her. At that event, she must smile brightly so no one suspects that she is from Murdy. He asked her if she can do that. She thinks that he is asking her the most important thing again. She does not respond to him, thinking that the answer is already decided. Right is not it. She's aware that no is not an option. She gets up and goes to him. Yes, father, she will survive. She wishes for mother, father, and Prabhas to watch over her. You will definitely reclaim Murdy with her flame. A few days later, she had almost adapted to life in Halias. The maid wishes her a good morning. She's very sleepy. The maid tells her that the weather is nice. Is not it? The sunlight is so warm. She wishes good morning back. She has gotten used to being treated like a baby. She is also aware that her pronunciation has gotten quite accurate. It's just because she is sleepy now. She wishes good morning to her doll too. She has a doll friend now. She named her Seti after her mother Cecilia. Garcia made her for her, and she will introduce her more later. Right now, there are scarier and what difficult problems to deal with. Another maid steps in wishing her a good morning and questioning what clothes will she try on today. The very evening she made the covenant to become the adopted daughter of Halias, the Duke immediately called someone called a tailor to take her measurements. Dorian handled the order for the clothes. They decide to go for 10 basic dresses, sleep bonnets and underwear, thick tights and gloves too, 3 coats riding outfits to outdoor hats. She decides to skip the detailed explanation. In Lausanne, she just wore whatever she picked up, so she never had to worry about this stuff. Even though nothing is happening, every day is filled with worries lately. She chooses a yellow dress today with jewels. She thinks that she made it to another hurdle today, but she cannot relax. The real trials start now. She wishes good morning to Caliph, calling him brother. He asks her to try again. She curses him in her mind. She calls him again brother, but he tells her do it again. She has been doing this annoying thing for almost a week. Theodore also wishes her a good morning. It is all because of him, as he was the one who called her to call him brother. Thinking if only he would have not played around in front of Caliph, Theodore ignores her, questioning what is for breakfast today. She's really angry as she wishes for him to stop looking away and say something. Shan asked her why is her brain so smart, but her tongue would not cooperate. Lyanna knows that it is not like she has no options. She wanted to save this method. It is her ultimate secret move. She yells. She shouts Dad, mentioning that brother is bothering her. Meanwhile, His Highness mentions that truly, the kingdom's claim has turned to ashes, questioning if revenge is sweet. He was informed that nothing could be better, but he states that he is disappointed. Asks questions about the one princess who was about Fran's age. If they had taken her in, the royal family could have had the flame, but it was all burned away. He tells someone to go away and leave and do not come until he himself calls for him. The man leaves as he stands there and thinks there is much to be done. A kid ponders that he must never be found out as he has to survive. The maid mentions that these boys are so excited. It is their first time having a little sister. So she asks Lyanna to not be sad. She tells her that starting tomorrow, she will join her for breakfast as well. Lyanna thinks that the Duke did not come in the end, but it was an unexpected gain. Dorian's fierce presence rushing at the sound of her crying even overwhelmed the sword master. She questions them. Who is bullying her little girl? She's aware that from tomorrow morning she can eat peacefully. She knows that Dorian is the best and is aware that boys will be boys after all. The Duke steps in as she questions if he needs something. He mentions that he came to give something to Lyanna. He tells her that he had to get it quickly, so it is a bit crude, but it is enough to recognize the face. It is something that she should keep. She takes a look at it before he calls out to her. He mentions that he has sent scouts to Murdy to investigate her parents' deaths. He tells her, but progress is slow as the crows have not returned. So he plans to go himself this time. He is sorry, but her welcoming party will have to be postponed. He tells Dorian to please take care of the children while he's away and ensure that they do not go out. Response yes. Lyanna thanks him. She wishes for him to please uncover the truth about her parents' deaths. He remains quiet before he tells her he was her parents' classmate at the academy, and tells her to stay well while he is gone as he pats her on the head. He commands them to take care of the island. He left immediately for Meldy with Caliph and scouts. She carefully placed the portrait he gave her in the drawer. Dorian questioned. Would not she like to see it? She told Dorian that it is okay. She wants to keep it in a safe place, and she only take it out when she misses them terribly. In fact, he missed them a lot right now, but because of that, she cannot waste time in sorrow. She's aware that she has so much to do. She steps out to find Theo and Cheyenne. Theo asks her if she wants to see the crows. She thinks about the crows. She's aware that the crows of Halias are famous. There are quite a few places in the kingdom that handle crows, but none raise them as smart and picky as Halias. She must have burned a few of them as they were one of her foes in her past life. Cheyenne questions if they really have to see those noisy creatures, mentioning that Lyanna might be scared. Lyanna questions about being scared, questioning if he is the one who is scared. Cheyenne becomes irritated, stating he's not scared, he just does not like the noise of them. Theo picks them up, stating they should go now. Cheyenne reminds him that he can walk by himself. Dorian looks at them leave. Last night the Duke told them that this is the report from the scouts. He told Dorian that he called her too because he will be informing Liana from now on. Theo mentions that she is still a child, so won't she feel anxious? It might be better to wait until she is older. Caliph reminded Theo that she is a sharp Murdy, she has the right to hear about her family's affairs and her parents' matters. Dorian thinks that he must have worried about her all night. She is aware that the young masters have grown up so well. She wishes for them to watch over the new little lady too. Outside, Theo tells Liana that all the crows of the castle reside within this forest. She is totally terrified as she wonders if it is because she is a 3-year-old. They are huge. One of them tries to attack Leona. Theo asks him to be quiet as he is scaring her. Deer questions if he wants to fight. Garcia grabs the crow, telling him that is not allowed, asking the crow what if their young lady hurriedly returns to the castle. Deer questions how is Garcia here. She tells him it has been a few days as noted. He questions what brings her here. Shine becomes shocked as Garcia tells just as he predicted. She is here to find a friend for Ingram. Liana questions about Ingram. Theo mentions that Ingram is Rush's crow. He is very clever. Shen wonders what is the use of being clever with that personality. Liana is suddenly shocked. Ingram begins to tell them to get lost. Liana is shocked as he tells Ingram that the baby can hear him. He asks Garcia to do something. She tells Ingram that the lady can hear him. Liana is aware that she can understand it. Ingram stares at Liana for a while before he shouts again. Liana wonders if he just talked to her. She tells him that she is Liana, mentions that it is nice to meet her. She is totally mesmerized. She tells him it is the same. Garcia is totally emotional as she mentions that she has lived long enough to see a day like this. Ingram, who only knew how to glare, peck, and bite his greeting. She finds it a miracle. Liana wonders what she introduced to her. Garcia asks her if she has named the worry doll. Liana responds yes, her name is Ceci. Garcia tells her that she tucked her in with a blanket this morning, finding it a relief that she already has a name. She was worried since Liana was so startled last time she was not sure if she would like her. It is understandable as she almost had a breakdown. It was a very few days after visiting the chapel. Someone knocked on the door. She wondered who could be at this hour. It was Garcia. Dorian asked her what brought her here so late. She responded that she has something to give to the young lady in question if she could come in for a moment. Dorian told her as long as Liana was not too sleepy she could do that. Garcia then went inside and told Liana that she brought a gift for her. She is not very skilled, but she made it herself as she gave her the doll. She told Lena that it is called a worry doll. It was a doll that would take on her worries. It will take on all her sadness and anger too. And she should give all her painful memories to this doll. Liana threw the doll. She began to tremble as she mentioned that she did not want a worry doll. She does not want to be a worry doll. It took a long explanation from Garcia and Dorian before she felt comfortable enough to touch the doll. Garcia asks her if she was afraid that she had cast a spell on it. Dorian told her to not worry, as the young masters also have their own worry dolls. Leona mentioned that she is scared of spells. She felt sad too, but she guessed. She has to remember her mom and dad somehow, so she decided to share her sorrow to continue remembering them. Garcia asks her if she took the name from Cecilia. She responds yes, so she can endure her memories and her sorrow, so she will become strong. Shen states that she says that after being startled by a crow, Liana tells him that she was hiding behind Brother Theo. Shen becomes angry, stating that she's just a little thing. He also mentions that he is going to get bigger once he learns swordsmanship. Crows will be nothing. Liana thinks that the sword is not his path. Shen asks Theo if he can teach him. Theo asks her if she wants it now. He tells her that father said he would get her a swordsmanship teacher next year. And Brother Caliph is here too. She knows that he will say he has many things to do, so she should wait for the right time to learn. Even Theo knows that brother is busy. He tells her all right, if it is just for the holidays. Shan becomes really happy, stating that sounds great. He tells him that his father gave him a sword in advance. He said it was used by the brothers when they were his age. He mentions that he will go get it right away. Theo tells him if that is what he wishes, then bring his wooden sword to the training room. He is totally shocked as he questions if he can really go in the training room. Theo tells him of course he can, as he is also part of Helios. Liana is listening to their conversation before she mentions that she wants to go too. Garcia tells her that it will be scary with the swords clashing. But she repeats that she wants to go. Garcia also tells her that the training room is noisy, cold, and dirty. The word Liana is stuck on her words. She ponders that she cannot miss watching the training of Swordmaster. Garcia then tells her to please be careful and go with Dorian. She thinks that there is nothing much to see teaching a 6-year-old, but she's curious about the Helios training room. She mentions that she is Leona Helios. Theo tells her that is right, she is also a part of them, so she can go. Shin becomes really annoyed as he tells no. Theo picks both of them up as he steps away, telling Garcia that they're going in. Garcia wonders that. It should be fine, right? But she underestimated Theodore. Cheyenne stands against Theo. He is trembling as Dorian and Leona is looking at them. Theo then tries to go after him. Both Leona and Cheyenne are shocked. She wonders if he is using Aura to train a 6-year-old sibling. He tells him to lower his standards, and 2 is to not close his eyes, drop his shoulders, use his core body strength. Cheyenne is already tired. Theo tells him that even students can shine and glow, so he can do it. Diana wonders what does he mean glow when he cannot even handle the weight of the wooden stick. Leanna thinks that it seems like Theo is just playing along because he finds his younger sibling endearing. As she looks at his smile, she also notices that they seem to be pretty focused. Leanna calls out to Dorian for laughing, apologizes. As she realizes that Leona is trying to focus, she tells Dorian it's not her. They look at Cheyenne as he drops the sword. Dorian, to appease Shin's mood, had to offer a ham sandwich and cookies. Dorian told him it is absolutely not because she finds him funny. It is just that the little lady looks so adorable when she's concentrating. Theo tells him that Dorian did not know either, right? Cheyenne tells Dorian that her mariners are worse than Leona. Cheyenne asks Dorian to not interrupt them next time. Dorian apologizes to him, telling him of course. He mentions that if she does it again, he will not show her at all. Leanna thinks that Dorian said she will never laugh again. She wonders what Theo went through in her past life. No matter how much he wields a sword, exudes aura, or gets angry. Not in a single movement has there ever been a glimpse of this past life known as the ghost of Helios. She knows that he was a heartless, cold-blooded man. She thought she was going to die walking around him all the time. Theo notices Leanna and tells her that her face looks tinted. Questioning if something is stuck in her throat, she tells him that is not the case. She ponders that let's not think like that as her second brother is a pure-hearted young man. More importantly, she has something to say. She questions Cheyenne. Is not the sword too heavy and cannot they practice with something else? Cheyenne questions if she wants him to hold a stake to learn swordsmanship instead of a sword. Theo then asks himself why did not he think of Thad. He states that since Cheyenne is smaller than him, when he was his age a wooden sword does not suit him. He tells them to go out and pick up some straight branches, questioning how did Lana come up with such an idea. Leanna ponders because that is what she did in her past life. Oedipa taught her with branches when she could not properly hold a sword. That guy was relentless. Come to think of him, he would not have just given up that easily. She thinks that somehow the peacefulness makes her uneasy. Shen mentions that he prefers it when his brothers give him swords instead, even though it is heavy, being the only one small enough to wear just a branch. Dorian tells him to not worry as he will grow up quickly. By this winter, he will be able to wield a wooden sword. Theo tells him that it's right when Leanna turns 6. He will pass down his word and teach her swordsmanship. He questions Leanna if that is right. Leanna is aware that in the future, only she knows that Cheyenne will never become a sword master. Instead, he recognized his own talent and researched swordsmanship, compiling a swordsmanship encyclopedia that would be remembered in history. In her opinion, it was a completely pointless endeavor. But she wonders, why does that matter? She has no intention of living like she did in her past life anyway. She mentions that she will learn too. She tells Cheyenne to please take good care of her. She thinks that for now, she will let these brothers smile warmly and do what they want to do. Again, Leona is dumbfounded. Theo tells Cheyenne that he has to watch his movement until the very end, and he should focus. Cheyenne is having a hard time holding the sword. He tells Theo that it is impossible, so how can he do it? Leanna ponders that forget her past life. Becoming a sword master is out of the question for him. She notices an insect as she looks at it. Dorian also stares at it. Leanna steps on it as Cheyenne tells her that he could have caught it. Cheyenne asks her of all things, she killed a cockroach, finding it an unlucky interpretation. She thinks that today she wants to support Shen's foundation, so she needs to gather some strength. She begins to then cry, stating that it is so scary and asks Cheyenne to get rid of it. Cheyenne asks her what is it and why is she so scared. He tells her that it is just a cockroach and he will get rid of it. Theo is aware that Leona is acting and finds her a mature younger sister. A knight steps towards Theo, calling out to him. Theo asks him what is the matter. He tells Theo that it is a report from the sentries right outside. He tells Theo as Theo is suddenly shocked. Pateo mentions that he got it, and he will prepare right away, asking to take care of the kids. Liana looks at him and wonders what is going on. He goes to them and mentions that he is sorry, but he needs to go handle something real quick. He tells them that they should play a fun game that will explain to them. Shine questions what game and asks about his training. Theo tells him that a wicked villain is coming to attack them on horseback, and the villain will only be in their castle for one day. So one day, right then it's announced that a messenger sent by His Majesty the Emperor has arrived. It is that if they have no intention of rebellion, then Helios should come out and meet them promptly. Liana is shocked as she questions a messenger from the royal court. Myrti's castle. Hilif finds it unfortunate. Right then someone mentions that the Duke of Helios has arrived. He apologizes for the late greeting as they were expecting them to arrive around tomorrow. The Duke mentions that the wind helped them cross the strait. He states that the damage is greater than anticipated, although it is modest. They brought relief supplies and funds, so they should be used them for the restoration. The man thanks them and mentions that he will definitely convey their Duke's and Helios' goodwill to His Majesty the Emperor. He apologizes, stating that the western main residence is still not fully organized. They will arrange for them to spend the night at the most accommodating place, the Lucretia Palace. The Duke questions if the funeral for Duke Marty and his wife will conduct it properly. He is told that the people, both the nobility and the commoners, deeply mourn them. They ensure the highest possible honor. He mentions that it was a sorrowful time. With the death of the only blood relative, the princess, there are even people fleeing Murdy in fear, believing that a curse has befallen the land. He is aware that the fact that Leona survived has not leaked out. He questions how far has the investigation progressed. He questions if he is not aware of the flames of minority. Both the building and the remains have been completely reduced to ashes, so there's nothing to investigate. He mentions that they did find traces presumed to be born dust in the Lord's room, but they only managed to conduct the funeral. The Duke asks, could not it be the remains of a servant? The man tells him, but since it happened so late at night, it is unlikely that servants were moving around the upper floors at that hour. Caliph versions how many servants survived. He is told some of the servants survived, but perhaps due to guilt for fleeing, they remain tight-lipped. The Duke asks to guide them to the memorial hall as they will go there. Meanwhile, Theo is looking at the report that there is an urgent matter to discuss regarding the recent tragic incident in Murdy, so he requests a prompt audience with the royal court. He thinks if he had known it would have come to this, he should have gone to Murdy and left Caliph behind. He was informed that the Emperor has ordered Duke Helios to accompany him. Until the Duke returns, they will have to hold off on further matters. That Yves had told them that it will take time and he will inform Father to send someone to the palace. He was told that he appreciates his consideration, but has not the Duke already faced such issues with the royal command before? If he does not accompany him this time, the Emperor will be greatly displeased, wonders that their attribution has come. He did not attend the Crown Prince birthday banquet, as well as the King's Summoner meeting last time. He was also busy, and found it tiresome event with a meaningless flattery. Theo knows that this has happened so many times, informs the man that considering the royal family's trust in Helios, he must reflect on this. He thinks that from the look of things, it seems they will not wait long, and with Liana here, it is rescue to delay any further. He knows that Father and him might barely arrive in Murdy. It will be quite a while before they return. Even though Liana is smart, she's only 3 years old. As she starts crying, Hidden wonders why is it that the only available guest room is so close to her room. With someone of the Chamberlain's level, he cannot just kill them to silence them. He cannot send her to the servant quarters indefinitely either. He's aware that dealing with such a complicated issue is not his forte. He then hears a voice and questions who is it. He wonders who would come here at this hour. He wonders if people were eavesdropping from outside. He mentions that showing up without any prior notice at this time, and if there's any urgent matter, he also takes his word. He knows in the worst case scenario, he might have to act without hesitation. Someone steps in and tells him to not be nervous. He looks to find Garcia. She wishes him a good evening and tells him it has been a while. He tells Garcia that he has not seen her since childhood, only during festivals, and asks her what brings her here. She tells him that a royal guest has arrived. She thought their lord's representative might be troubled, so she came to help. He tells her that Garcia really knows everything. She knows exactly what he is thinking about. She tells him that she only knows what she knows. He asks her what does she think should be done. She tells him that it is indeed a difficult situation. She mentions that the eldest brother might have discerned the royal intention promptly and could have skillfully persuaded them to leave. They know that they are protectors by strength, not politicians. They can only assist with what they do well. Theo asks her if she's talking about killing and burying them if that is the only option. She tells him it would certainly be easier if that was possible. She asks him to leave the main residence and the young lady to her and go to the royal castle with the chamberlain. He questions evacuate the main residence. She tells him it is fine as the young lady has been in this castle for a long time, no matter what complications arise. He tells her that if she says so, then he feels reassured. He tells her that father will be extremely angry. She mentions that everyone grows up from being scolded. He is not thinking of getting scolded together, is he? He tells her he still cannot think of a better solution as there is no time, he will be back quickly. She asks him to travel safely. He leaves for his journey. Liana is looking from her window as she wonders who is living. Dorian tells her who knows who might be leaving, so she should be careful. Dorian and she spent the night in silence, unable to sleep. Since the guest room were on the same floor, they could not step a single step outside, and they were too anxious to move freely for fear of making a sound. It was fortunate that they were not searching for them. She hopes that the royal entourage has already left. Right then, there is a knock on the door. It is Susie. Through steps in and tells Liana that Theodore asked her to deliver this letter to her. Liana looks at the letter as the maid asks if she should read it for her. Liana responds that she can read it herself. It is written that dear youngest Liana, due to an urgent call from the royal court, he had no choice but to leave the castle. During his absence, Garcia will be responsible for the castle safety, so she should not worry. As Garcia is really strong, remember the story about the Western Tower from the library? When she needs a place to rely on, she can find Garcia there. He will return quickly. It is her second brother, Theodore. She is stunned as she thinks that he was urgently summoned by the royal court. Thinking what could be the reason among those left in this castle, only Shen and she, the smaller ones, remain as proper Halias. She is aware if Oedipa tries to kidnap her again, she will be helpless. She wonders, could it be that the royal court is manipulating this situation? Dorian tells her to not worry too much as everything will be fine, and that since the Halias family is important, the royal court calls them often. They both tell her that it is all right and Garcia is there too, but she cannot help but tremble. Right then, they hear a sound as both of them cover her. Susie questions, "Who is it?" There is no response, but then it is mentioned that he came to deliver news about his brother and the others. Liana with scaredy face looks at the door thinking if it's Cheyenne. Cheyenne then asks if he can come in.